মাই ডিয়ার লার্নার্স, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। যত বাংলা কথা প্রেজেন্টেশনের আগে শেষ করব। এটি একটি প্রত্যাশিত প্রেজেন্টেশন সকলের কাছে, কারণ দীর্ঘদিন ধরে আমি প্রতিশ্রুতি দিয়ে এসেছিলাম যে এটি আমি দেখাবো, বাট সময়ের স্বল্পতার কারণে অথবা টেকনোলজির প্রবলেমের কারণে অথবা ইলেকট্রিসিটির ফলের কারণে আমরা দেখাতে পারিনি। তো আজকে সেই প্রত্যাশিত ক্ষণ। তো আমি আগেই বলেছি যে অবশ্যই এই প্রেজেন্টেশনটি ইংলিশে হবে, বাংলায় নয়। তো টপিকটি আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি, দ্য টপিক ইজ pairs of sentence, structures and their uses. So let's start, move forward. A sentence will have several parts to it: subject, verb, sentence complements. Subject. Let's know what is subject. The subject is who or what is completing the action of the sentence. The subject can be either a noun or a pronoun. Often the subject appears at the beginning of the subject. We know that very well. Usually our sentence begins with a subject. Next slide. Verb. The verb can show action. You can see the action. It's not a common action in our country, but you will see in European country or American countries this kind of action. So the verb can show action, either mental or physical action. The verb can also show state of being. Action verbs. Let's see what are the action verbs. Types of mental action, and on the other hand you can see types of physical action. See here, first types of mental action is something like to think, to feel, to dream, to believe, to remember, to understand. These are the mental actions. And then types of physical actions: to sing, to dance, to play, to work, to cope with, to love. Dear students, listen very carefully, and of course you must listen to my pronunciation, and you will try to pronounce it like this. Okay? Then linking verbs. Certain verbs are always used as linking verbs, like forms of to be: is, am, are, was, were, be, being, been. And number two, to seem, to become. And certain verbs can be used as either action or linking verbs. They're sensory verbs: to feel or to taste, to smell, to sound, to look. Number two, to grow, to appear. Next, action or linking verbs. Since some verbs can be used as either type of verb, how can you decide how the verb is being used as an action verb or as a linking verb? Let's see. It's a good question indeed. If the subject is actually performing the action described, the verb is being used as an action verb. Clear? Okay. If the verb is being used to describe the subject in some way, the verb is being used as a linking verb. So I think you got the answer. Next, example of action verb: Well, Juicy tasted the freshly baked bread. Here notice Juicy. The subject is doing the tasting of that wonderful bread. Juicy is doing the action. It's yummy cake. Okay, next example, linking verb. The freshly baked bread tasted terrific. Notice that now the verb is describing how wonderful that bread tasted. The bread is not doing the tasting this time. Isn't it interesting? Yeah, of course. Well, sentence complements. Sentence complements complete the meaning, being with the subject and the verb. Well, sentence complements can be any one of the following, like direct objects, indirect objects, predicate nouns, also called predicate nominatives or predicate adjectives. How can we figure out which sentence complement is being used? Well, sentence complements are determined by the verb. Action verbs can certain types of sentence complements. Linking verbs take other types of sentence complements. Complements for action verbs. Let's see. Action verbs will have direct objects and indirect objects. For example, Mrs. Noor Nahar gave the class the test. Direct object, the test. Indirect object, the class. Here, the test is direct object, the class is indirect object. Sometimes in changing active passive, frequently, most often our dear students become confused which one is direct object and which one is indirect object. Here from this example, I think you are clear. Okay, let's see more. Direct objects. Direct objects follow an action verb and they receive the action of the verb. Number 1, direct objects answer who or what after an action verb. Number 2, in the example, Mrs. Noor Nahar gave the class the test. Who or what did Miss Noor Nahar give? The test. So, the test is the direct object in the sentence. I think it's clear to you. Dear learners, you're very curious, you're very talented, you're very intelligent. No doubt here. Indirect objects. My dear students, let's see. Indirect objects follow an action verb and tell to whom or for whom the action was done. Number 1, indirect objects come before the direct object in the sentence. Remember, indirect objects come before the direct object in the sentence. In order to have an indirect object, there must be a direct object. In the example, Mrs. Noor Nahar gave the class the test. To whom or for whom did Mrs. Noor Nahar give the test? The class. So the class is the indirect object in that sentence. I think you're clear. Here's a hint. There is a test that can be used for indirect objects. Since indirect objects answer to whom or for whom an action was done, they can be changed into prepositional phrases and moved to the end of the sentence. It's very important for you, dear learners. Mrs. Nurnahar gave the class the test, or you can say Miss Nurnahar gave the test to the class. Like to the class has become as a prepositional phrase, and it is used at the end of the sentence. Okay, sorry, let's move to the next slide. And just remember, action verbs can use both direct and indirect objects. Number 2, direct objects can be used without indirect objects. Number 3, indirect objects cannot be used without a direct object. Number 4, indirect objects always appear before the direct object. Copy these things on your notebook and try to recall while you are in practice. Okay, complements for linking verbs. Let's see. Linking verbs will have predicate nouns or predicate adjectives. Notice that you can only have one or the other. You cannot have both in the same sentence. Okay. Next slide. Predicate noun. Predicate nouns rename the subject. They will most often follow a form of the verb to be or to become. For example, Mr. Price is our principal, or you can say Mr. Reza is our principal. It's a common name. Next, another slide. There are some hints here. There is a test that can be used for predicate nouns. Since predicate nouns rename the subject, they can be interchanged with the subject, and the sentence will still say the same thing. Like as I said earlier, Mr. Reza is our principal, or our principal is Mr. Reza. Anyone you can say. Predicate adjective. Predicate adjectives describe the subject. They will follow any linking verb. Be careful of sensory linking verbs. For example, Mr. Zakir grew angry while driving. It's grew, not grew. Usually we pronounce grew. It's grew. The correct pronunciation is grew. Grow, grew, grown. Mr. Zakir grew angry while driving. Dear learners, we need to be careful about our pronunciation, and if we wish to do that, we'll have to practice a lot. Without practicing a lot, we can't expect to have good pronunciation. Don't forget, predicate nouns can also be called predicate nominatives. Predicate nouns and predicate adjectives follow linking verbs only. Predicate nouns and predicate adjectives cannot be used together in the same sentence. I think you have understood. You got it. Important. Very important. One final reminder. You see, for exclamation signs, no verb must have a sentence complement. Some verbs express complete ideas on their own. So, there are some verbs who need not to have sentence complement. They themselves complete the meaning. They themselves make sense. Next, to conclude, sentences have subjects, verbs, and complements. Action verbs will have direct objects, indirect objects. Linking verbs will have predicate nouns, predicate adjectives. Put all these parts together and you will have what? A complete sentence. Yay! Congratulations! Now you have discovered a complete sentence. Thank you very much, dear learners, for your patience hearing. See you in the next presentation. Since then, stay fine, stay safe at home, and pray for me. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.